All right. Hello, everybody. We are back after quite a long hiatus due to the holidays and it being surprisingly cold down here in Atlanta, which was not fun. And just also just getting used to getting back into the swing of regular life. So because of that, we are back with another recording on Under the Too Many Guys Soccer Show umbrella. I am Stead, and I am joined this week by someone who I have yet to meet in person, but someone who I probably enjoy speaking with online more than anyone I can say in my recent life. Professor Matt, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Stead, and yourself?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. It's been for me, I won't lie, I have not paid as much attention to soccer as I normally do this time of year because for the first time since I have been an adult, the Washington Commanders were actually worth watching after the month of October. So I had been dialed in super hard. That was a lot of fun. I had not had that much fun in a football season without rooting vicariously through my friends who support Baltimore or my wife who supports the Giants or anything like that, or all these random Philly Eagles fans who I seem to have come in contact with over the past 10 years. But that was enjoyable to watch. But I'm back. I'm ready to get my feet back into my first love, which is soccer, and get talking about the greatest league in the world. That is the Premier League in England. So today we're gonna just chat about a few things, the title race, how the table's looking, a couple of surprises, a couple of maybe not so surprises, but a bit more disappointments than we were probably expecting, as well as we'll touch a little bit on the Champions League. But I think we should, considering our respective teams that we support, we should start with the title race because I think we can agree that while the gap is sizable, there's still lots of games to be left played, and we have some enjoyable things that we can talk about. So let's just jump right in. Professor Matt, I will say that though Liverpool's dominance has still been pretty clear and evident, and other teams have not taken advantage when Liverpool stumbles, we can say Liverpool is not perfect. This is not the team
Mhm.
from 2020 that just was 27 points clear, clearly going to win the title in January. We knew that, okay, this is over. But they're still up. They're still up by 6 points with a game in hand. So you conceivably say they're up by 9 points because you would expect them to probably make up that game with a win, depending on who they're playing against. Hopefully it's like Ipswich Town or lowly Southampton. But so Matt, what do you see? What's going on with Liverpool lately?
So, like I said on the Liverpool exclusive,
Yes, please check that out. Please check
yes,
that
and
out.
you should all watch that. I, you're right. This isn't the 1920 team. This isn't even the 1819 team that took City to the absolute limit. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, normally when you get 97 points in the
Yeah,
league,
you pretty much
all the
guaranteed a win.
league, you don't
Mm-hmm.
normally finish second.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I've been very hesitant to make any proclamations. One of the reasons is Liverpool fan PTSD. I've seen us on top at Christmas, and I've seen this go hella sideways. Uh, and even 1920. It was about this time, like late January, early February, where I definitively came out and said, "Okay, I think we're going to actually win the league." Uh, and in most seasons, it's really you can't say anything definitively until March and maybe even early April.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this though, we are the favorites at this point, and at this point it's our title to lose.
Yeah.
That much I will say.
Mm-hmm.
Uh can this get derailed? Well, yeah, I mean the two things that I'm worried about are fatigue,
Mm-hmm.
especially with guys like Ryan Gravenberch that seem to, start damn near every match. Although Slot has started utilizing the squad more recently, which I
Mm-hmm.
like.
Mm-hmm.
We've actually seen Wataru Endo. We've seen Harvey Elliott. Chiesa's real. I was doubting that for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and injuries, right?
Yeah.
And looking at your guys, that's really been the problem because I think the gap is a little closer if Arsenal was not effectively the walking wounded.
Yeah. Yeah, which has essentially been Arsenal's MO for as long as I've been following them. I mean, I believe there was a stat that came out maybe a season or two ago where Arsenal had twice as number of injuries over the previous 10 years than the team that was placing second in that same statistic. So the injury issue is still very, very huge. I think people forgot that Takahiro Tomoyasu is even on the team because he's been hurt so much. Who's
Yeah,
actually, when he's healthy, he is a solid, solid defensive player who can play a wing back or he can play center back as well.
extremely versatile player.
Reverse, yes, and big. I mean, people don't think about it. He's 6'2". I mean, he's a big guy who can
Well,
move.
Arteta likes his big fullbacks,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he's the prototype there. I think the
right.
most disconcerting thing, if I was an Arsenal fan, is the way the injuries have come this year and where,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like 2021 Liverpool vibes,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like there's injuries, but the injuries are all at one part of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
squad. And
Yeah.
it to be fair, it's your weakest link even when healthy, it's goal scorers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so, I know they just recently put in a bid for Ollie Watkins, and I'll speak about that a little bit later on. But you can see that with Bukayo Saka out, he the level of attack he's able to provide is sorely missed. Now, I do applaud Arteta for telling Saka, go take a break. Just go. You need to take a little vacation because we can't forget he's 23 and he has been beat up a lot. He was overused. And I think Arteta heard that. Yes, he's overused, but he's also going like, what else can I do? Luckily for us, by moving Martinelli over to the other side, he's been proven to be pretty effective over there, and he's been a capable player to come in. But we can't forget Odegaard's been injured. William Saliba's been injured, and we've had some bad red cards against us. Look,
Yeah.
I'm not really on the Michael Oliver conspiracy, even though it's hard not to be. But I think it was Trussard got a red card for touching the ball literally less than a second after the whistle was blown. Declan Rice got that card, which was stupid because you also saw in the same game the other team did the exact same thing and there was nothing called. And then you see the red card that was given to Skelly against Wolves last week, and luckily that was rescinded. But still, that still changed the entire tide of the game. And if they got to draw that game, that would have been solely on that horrible, horrible, horrible call. So they've been snake bitten a little bit, but I'm not gonna blame the Cards that much because the injuries are still the main thing. The inability to stay healthy. This was been going on for I don't know who was in charge of their physio. If that person has turned over a lot frequently, because that could be an issue where you have no
Well, I
consistency
can
there.
tell you right now, your former physio was Liverpool's former physio.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember when we had that one
Mm-hmm.
season where we were just decimated,
Yeah, that was awful.
and it was like, who is this guy? And it's like, oh, he was the Arsenal physio, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, that explains a
That
lot.
explains it.
Yeah,
That explains it. That explains it. And you have to wonder what kind of, because a lot of these are soft tissue injuries as well. You're looking at it going, what type of training are they doing? You have a weight room. Are they using it? I mean, I know I'm not saying weights is something that soccer players should be doing consistently, but it's something soccer players should be doing consistently. You need to
yeah,
train with some sort of resistance training to keep those types of injuries at bay to the best you can because it's such a cardio based game. It's such a, there's the impact on the joints is so heavy. But Ben White's also injured. So it's the fact that they're still hanging around. I'm not going to say it's so much of a testament to Arsenal. I think it's just that the other teams in the league just are just not playing as well right now, and I think that they're
yeah. And
lucky to
and
kind
I
of
will
be
say,
there.
I will say this in Arsenal's favor, or I'll give them their flowers. Uh Defensively, and when you have your full, group of midfielders,
Hmm.
they're still quite good. And
Hmm.
I'll throw my hands up. I
Hmm.
thought Raya was a mirage. He's legit. He's probably the second or third best goalkeeper in the league.
I'm shocked myself. I am because let's not forget when he took over for he plays for Southampton now. I don't even remember his name. That's how quickly things turn over.
English goalkeeper with the
Yeah.
gift.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And let's not forget the season before that he was on the best 11. He won the
Yep.
award for best goalie in the Premier League. And now he's going to get relegated for I think the third time in his career. He's on a team that's going to be getting relegated. So there's that. And Raheem Sterling is not really working out, but let's not forget
That
he's got so many miles on those legs. And when you're playing at that level of professionalism at 17, let's not forget, he was starting for Liverpool. He was
yep.
17. So by the time he was 23, he was a 6-year vet. so when you're 30, 31, you're really like 38 when you've been playing as
And
much as he's been playing.
a constant internationally. He's,
Exactly.
every tournament summer
Yes.
has work.
Yes. Let's not forget he was starting for England at 18. He
Yeah.
was in the starting 11 at 18. And I hope that when he does retire, that he also gets his flowers because he deserves them. And all these City fans can gripe all they want. That guy was a very strong player for you. And but I think that, but he's kind of done. And let's not just say, I'm sorry, the Gabriel Jesus experiment has failed remarkably. Through no fault of anybody, he just can't stay healthy. And it's a shame that he tears his ACL right when he was starting to hit a little bit of form again. Boom, tears his ACL. And that's the guy that was supposed to be putting in goals for us, and that's not happening. So, I think that Arsenal's biggest worry should not be whether or not they win the league. It should be, can they stay ahead of Manchester City? That's
100%
really what they got to worry
way
about. And they
because,
have to,
yeah,
if they don't make a move, if they don't bring in a goal scorer now, they need to be very, very, very worried that they're going to stumble and they're going to look at being in third or fourth place.
and you guys play them at the crib.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. 11:30. So it's gonna be it's tough. And as fans, we can talk about the reasons why, but it still exists. And you have to keep looking forward and face the elephant in the room. That's a huge game, especially considering they gave John Stones that goal in the 98th minute when the whistle should have already been blown, and he scores that goal. And then that takes away the win. We get a draw out of that game. And now, you know, Arsenal has outplayed Manchester City. They did. They outplayed him at City. They outplayed him at Eastlands. But it's still Manchester City. They still have Erling Haaland. They still
And
have Kevin De Bruyne. They
and that's the
still
thing.
have them.
And that's the thing with City. They clearly still have problems.
Mm-hmm. They do.
I'm not ready to say they are back because them
Right.
being back is otherworldly.
Mm-hmm.
But they're a good club. They're a good team again.
Yes. Yes.
Uh, and yeah, they still have problems, right? Like I think we said before on the show, the Rodri injury exposed a lot of other issues that were getting patched up
Mm-hmm.
and missed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But even when they've been dysfunctional during this run, they still managed to score goals.
They do. They do. And they didn't really get below seventh or sixth place. And and
No,
and and in this league, you see the difference between third and seventh is literally 4 points. So you get a good week and a half and you can pop right back up,
oh,
especially if
you
teams that are ahead of you lay a huge egg like Forest did last weekend. And you can easily jump right back in it.
if going back to the top of the show, and you said the best league in the world, and it's been hard to sort of say that the last couple of years
Mm-hmm.
because City have either walked the league and
Mm-hmm.
so far in front, or
Mm.
Liverpool and City have been in these crazy title races where they
Right.
get like plus 95 points.
Right.
But my barometer for the health of the league is what I've always called the mighty middle.
Mm-hmm.
Like it can't be too top heavy. You shouldn't be able to guess the bottom five teams every year. What I think City's dominance has kind of masked or shrouded is, and this year with City going down a peg, you really see it. Anywhere from first to about 12th
Mm-hmm.
can beat anybody
Yeah.
their day. Like
Right.
we have to go to Bournemouth on Saturday. That's tricky, man. Bournemouth away is not a place you want to
No.
go anymore.
No. No, it's not.
And even the match in hand, I wish it was Ipswich. It's Everton, and I'll keep it real. As bad as Everton is, they are momentum killers.
Yeah, they are.
Know it firsthand.
Yeah, I do. That draw against Everton we had right after the draw against Fulham really killed Arsenal's momentum, absolutely. And look, Everton, I think they've escaped this sort of like you're going to be going down pretty soon that they were in the last couple of seasons because just the teams below them are just that much worse. But
Yeah,
I also think Everton is still, that they got 2 wins relatively recently. So they if they can just get a win every now and then just to stay in that 16th slot, I don't really see them as a huge risk. I almost think the relegation game is over. And we can
I
talk
agree.
about that later, but I kind of
I
think that's
agree.
over.
And they also switched it up. I mean, David Moyes is back. the
Hmm.
Chronicle Grandpa. Uh,
Where is he? Where did he go? I missed that. Who's he coaching?
oh, Dyche, the Northumberland Cookie Monster, stepped down 3 weeks ago.
Are you? I
David
totally missed
Moyes,
this.
yeah,
Where
David
is he?
Moyes is Everton's manager again.
Oh my God. How did I
Yeah,
miss this? I totally missed
yeah,
it. I was so up in the good old gridiron game that I completely missed that. Are
yeah.
you serious?
David Moyes is back, man.
That's awesome. That's actually awesome. I'm
But
glad to hear that. I'm
but
glad to
back
hear that.
but back to City. Yeah, I mean, someone said it in the chat a couple weeks ago, and I have to agree. It's like if you put a gun to my head and said, "Who do you think's going to finish top four?" I see City no anywhere between four and maybe even two. As crazy as that sounds,
I
I
do
don't think
too.
they're going to win the league. I think that they've dug themselves uh, enough of a pit,
I agree.
but they're still City. They still have guys who can hurt you,
Yeah.
and Pep's still the manager.
Yeah, he is. He is. And Pep is clearly trying to get young. He's bringing that
So
Uzbek kid he brought
I
in, and I know he had a rough start, but that kid, he's good. He's a player because he settled down. He actually played well the rest of the game.
so they've made a lot of moves
Hmm.
this window, which is kind of surprising.
Hmm.
But I mean, they got my man Marmoush, who I wanted at Liverpool desperately, and
Yeah, I was hoping you'd talk about him a bit
that
because I know.
pissed me off, man. But they needed another striker because I was still kind of confused. They sold Alvarez at the beginning of the window, and then they just
Right.
sat and did nothing. And I'm like, as good as Haaland is, you can't go into a season with one bona fide striker. What are you going to
Hmm.
play Phil Foden as a false nine? I can tell you right now that's not going to work.
No, he doesn't want
Uh,
to do that either.
yeah, exactly. But so he's 25. He's the old guy of the group.
Right.
They brought in this Brazilian center back slash fullback guy because Pep loves guys who can play all four
He,
defensive
li- he likes
positions.
those hybrid guys. Yeah.
Yeah, Reese, he's 19. Uh the midfielder Ekanardi, 19. And
Hmm.
then my boy, the Uzbek sensation. I was telling you guys about this dude
You told us
last
about him a
year.
long time ago.
Yeah, during the Asian
Yeah.
Cup. Kusanov,
Hmm.
20. Uh I think this is very interesting because these are not just moves to, patch some of the holes for this year. These are moves for the future,
Hmm.
which should get us all worried because this probably tells me Pep's going to stay there for a bit.
Yeah, I know. I was hoping he would leave.
But here's the other thing. So I thought about this and I'm like, these are really young guys. These are
Yeah.
not typical City signings.
Hmm.
Something's going to happen at the end of, is it February or March?
I
We're
think
gonna
it's
hear, we're gonna hear a lot about certain charges.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So I don't think there's gonna be like a straight up death penalty or anything like that. They're not gonna
Hmm.
concede championships and all of a sudden Liverpool's, you know, Chelsea Mike has to totally change his tune about how many Premier Leagues we've.
Yeah.
But I do think some of the charges are gonna stick. And I think this might have been preemptive.
Mm.
I think there might be a year, maybe even a 2 year transfer ban.
Oh wow.
Because
That's a
why are you
good
buying
inference.
guys
Yeah.
this young?
Right.
And in some cases, in areas that you don't need.
Right.
This,
Yeah.
because remember when Chelsea got the one summer ban, they did
Yep.
something remarkably similar.
Right.
Why is this before Chelsea bought kids? But it was like,
Right.
Chelsea buying kids, and why
Right.
they just sell like the best goalkeeper in the world? And it's like,
Right.
oh, okay, they know that there's a transfer ban coming. I have no idea if this is the case, but it's something to keep an eye on because and I look at these players and I'm like, Marmoush, he's legit. I think we know he's legit. But these other guys, they're not typical City signings.
Yeah.
You have to wonder. It's like Kusanov. I think he's going to come good, but we're not going to see what's going to look like his best football for 2 more years.
Yeah. At least. Yeah.
Well, if you can't make moves for at least a year or two,
Hmm.
that's exactly the kind of player you want to bring in.
Yeah, so I'm going through this squad. I'm looking at it. It's like, yeah, these are odd moves. These are very odd moves for Chelsea, or sorry, for City, because they're not poaching.
Yeah.
So that is an odd, which does lead one to believe that they must feel like, or they've probably been receiving in communication that, listen, you are going to get hit with something. You're
Something.
going to get hit. Something's going to happen because we can't sweep this one under the rug again. We can't do it again because then it'll just completely tarnish the league to the point where they may not recover. So, yeah, I could actually see a 2 window ban, something
Yeah, a
like that.
summer and a
Yeah, a summer and a
January, or
January. I
maybe a
could see that,
summer, January, and then another summer
and
through
another summer.
that. Yeah, like
Yeah,
that's kind of the way I'm reading these tea leaves.
right, right. And so, and we'll see if that brings them back to earth a bit too. But because I mean, anybody who has a rudimentary understanding of how transfers work will see that City is clearly doing something that they don't have the funds that are generated by the squad to be able to do.
Hmm.
You don't have those kind of funds. I remember when Leicester was battling with the league because they're just saying, why are we not allowed to invest in our club the way these other clubs are, hinting that it's obvious that City is pumping money into this team that's not from the financial fair play rule book. And so why are you keeping us from being able to do so? Because Leicester, I mean, I don't forget that time, that owner had all the money and he
Yeah,
was more than happy to
yeah.
spend it on that club. So that's something to definitely I'll be curious to see what happens with that. But of course, you're going to think that that's a slap on the wrist, and it probably, for what is transpired or what the charges are kind of like, what's listed there, is probably accurate to say it's just a slap on the wrist because they probably could get a whole lot more. But unless it is a situation like what's happened a few times in Italy, I can't foresee them stripping titles or things like that. Even if I feel like they should, I just don't see that. I don't see the Premier League with the balls to do something like that.
No, and not to. If this was earlier in the City Group's tenure,
Hmm.
maybe. But
Yeah.
Man City have now become such an important brand within the league.
Right.
I don't think they do that. And it's not like some of the scandals in Italy
Hmm.
where
Yeah.
this is just shady money. It doesn't
Right.
involve organized crime,
Right.
doesn't involve political scandals,
Right.
right? Like the Italian
Right.
stuff, if anything, Chelsea's issues more resemble Italy, but I think they're going to get a slap on the wrist because
Hmm.
A, the guy who was responsible for all of that isn't the owner anymore,
Right.
and they self snitched on themselves,
They did. That's
which
true. They
I
did.
think that's huge.
That's an NCAA thing to do to try to lessen the blow. Is let me just tell on myself before somebody else
Exactly,
blows the whistle on us. So,
exactly.
but while we're on the topic of transfers, I'm gonna bring up Arsenal's lack of them so far.
Well, we're in the same boat,
I
baby.
mean, that yeah, you have someone who's going to have one of the greatest seasons ever in the Premier League this year. So no offense, I don't care about your transfers. You don't need any. I mean, listen, Mo Salah is having, and I think I think as we get closer to the end of the season, you're going to see more discussed about this. He's having an all-time season this year.
We we and I hope it's me and you because you are the Arsenal guy, and I will say this. For me, the greatest foreign player that ever played in the Premier League is Henri.
Is Henri, yeah,
Uh, at the end of the year, me and you need to sit down and have that conversation because
yeah,
there's a conversation now to be had.
yes,
And I'll keep it real. I think I would probably still say Henri simply
mm-hmm,
because I believe his impact of selling the English game and making it globalized,
yes,
it can't be underestimated. But in
right,
terms of just the play on the field and their importance,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's a real conversation now.
Yeah, there is. And listen, those United fans are going to try to say Cantona, and I just don't. I don't think that's really. I don't think you can put Eric Cantona in the
I
same conversation with Henri. And right now, I don't think you can with Mo Salah either. I just
no,
don't. I just don't.
yeah, I would agree with you. I would agree
Yeah,
with you.
yeah. This season though, when I check, it's funny when I check Liverpool's scores. I immediately don't check really to see. I want to know if he scored or not. And then I
Well,
want
it's
to know,
not
did he
even just the
assist or not?
goals; it's the
It's the
assist.
assists. That's what I'm looking at because I'm looking at he's going to get the 20 goals. He might even get to 30.
He
But
might get 20 goals this weekend.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And he's on what, 13 or 14 assists?
13 assists.
13 assists. So you're looking at this going, okay, you only need 7 assists to get 20. And a lot of people consider the greatest individual season by a player is Henri's 2020 season. And you're looking at somebody who might go 30-20, not 25-20, 30-20. That's a real possibility. We're only 23 games in. There's still 15 games left to play. So it's really going to be, I think this is something that people really need to be paying attention to. This is an all-time season. And if Liverpool wins the title, and let's not forget, Liverpool is a favorite for the Champions League.
One
If
of the
one of the
favorites.
favorites, if Liverpool wins one of those two, and Salah has this season, you have to say that's the best season from a Premier League player. You have to. I think you do. Because
It also might be Ballon d'Or incoming back to Africa.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
If he wins one or both, and
Mm-hmm.
an Afcon winter coming up,
Mm-hmm.
look, if he drives Egypt to that trophy,
Yeah.
it's not just Ballon d'Or. We're also having the conversation: is he the best African player?
Yeah. But look, Marmouche,
Yeah,
like you have a running mate now, like a
yeah. It's
real running mate up top,
not just him.
not just him.
It's not just him, and they can play your boy El Meni in his actual position. Remember that
That's
one
right.
tournament when he was the number 10, and I'm like,
What are you doing?
what's going on?
What are you doing?
Yeah,
What are you doing? Is El Neni goes he left recently. I don't know see who he's playing with now because um I have kind of lost track of what he was doing. But
he. I think he's somewhere in Europe because I swear I saw him.
yeah, I
Well,
feel
not
like he's
that
like in
recent.
Germany or something.
Maybe Bundesliga.
Yeah, I think so. But he's I'm just gonna just really quickly he was like really an unsung hero for the squad for a long time. And he was, when he left, it was time for him to go, but he was the guy that would just, the dirty work guy. But I've seen several games where he would just be in the way and just be disruptive of another team's attack, and he wouldn't even get the ball, but he would cause him to get a turnover, and he'd get an applause from the fans. Everyone
He
he really recognized the work rate he would do and the way he
he
would
was
play.
your guy's late stage James Milner for us.
Yeah.
He was the just stop,
Mm-hmm.
disrupt play,
Mm-hmm.
get a tactical foul, see out a game.
Right. Get
No,
get a
you
yellow, it's no big deal.
yeah, you weren't
Yeah.
going to get a 10 out of 10, but seven for
Yeah.
a 20-minute cameo is fine.
Right. Yeah. He's playing in the UAE right now.
Hmm.
So, but 32,
Yeah,
you
he's
know, he's had a
older
good
too.
career. He's
Yeah,
had a good career, was able to play with Arsenal. When he left Arsenal, he was the longest serving player on the squad when he left. So
he was one of the last Wenger
yes, he was.
signings.
He
Yeah,
was. He was. So yeah, so you're looking at that Egypt team, and they can be pretty good. And you got to say, I can't really think of, excuse me, another African team right now that has the star player that Egypt does.
yeah. Senegal, as much as we love our boy,
Yeah,
their
they
golden generation is declining.
is declining. It's definitely declining.
Nigeria Nigeria's attack's great, but
Don't get me started on
start getting into
Nigeria.
the midfield, then the problems begin.
I have been waiting for Nigeria to be Nigeria since 1995. Like, they had a great World Cup. They had a decent World Cup in 94. They essed the bed in 95, in 98 against Denmark. And
Yes, but they
that
also played in what, as far as I'm concerned, is the greatest match in that tournament, the group stage match against Spain.
against Spain, yeah,
Yeah, that
I
that that
agree.
is one of the best
That's
World Cup matches.
I
That's
could
how
not
I
agree more.
became a weird, like quasi, like Nigeria is my sub-Saharan African team
Right, right.
of that match and the freaking kits.
Yeah, yeah. I got into them in '94. I love Daniel Amokachi. That was my guy in '94. But in '98 though, that I had that game because the that tournament was beautiful because the games were on at like noon and 4.
Yep.
And I remember I was working at Kmart that summer, and I was working from about 8, 9 o'clock until about 5. So I would come home and I had a VHS recorder. So I would watch I would get home right as the games were kind of ending. So, and I would come home, I would sit in front of the TV with a pizza, and I would watch both games. So I had that game on a video cassette on a VHS recording, and I would just record over it because I was like, I'm not gonna watch them 8 times, so I just record over it. That one I set to the side. I must have watched that game at least 6 or 7
Yeah.
times after the tournament was over. Sunday Oliseh hitting that goal at the end of the game, and he was, this far from the post in the goalkeeper's hand to score that to go up 3-2. That was just an amazing, amazing match. So yes, that Nigeria and everyone was like, okay, this is going to be the African team. This is going to be the team that's going to be that's going to be the first team to semifinal, the first African team to final. It's going to be Nigeria, and they could just the issues that those governing bodies have over their sport is just so challenging, and the corruption, it's just sad because they have all the talent in the world. And say what you want, Nigeria has money.
Yes.
Nigeria
Lots of
has a
lots
lot
of
of
money.
money. You have a lot of
Lots of
money,
money.
so you can develop like they should be filing an Afcon every time. You know what I mean? I mean they really should be. I mean, so it's just
You've just given me a wonderful plug for my upcoming season on soccer and decolonization, because that some of the questions and some of the things you point to about why Nigeria isn't what
mm-hmm,
we think they should be
mm-hmm.
will be covered there,
We
because
covered there. Yeah,
these are
yeah, yeah, yeah,
these are
yeah.
systemic issues,
Yes, they are.
including the
Yes, there
need
are.
to hire random white guys to be your manager, because you've decolonized your country, but you
Yeah,
haven't decolonized your mind.
not mine. No, and Bora Milutinovic is not coming back.
No,
He
no.
said
Him,
that ship.
him and that Dutch dude from the '90s. They're
They're
the
gone.
Dunzo, man.
They're gone. They're
Yeah.
gone. And there's been there's enough history in your own nation that I'm sure you can find a perfectly fine manager that can
The
lead that club.
last time in the World Cup that they actually looked pretty decent, what was it, 2014? And
Yeah,
it was a Nigerian manager. It was one of
right.
those dudes from
Oh yeah,
that
yeah.
golden generation.
It was one of the ex-players from the
Yeah.
90s. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, that's right. So off on another tangent, but we can bring it
Yes.
back. We can bring it back to the Premier League. But
But anyway, yeah,
if
this could be the Mo Salah Ballon d'Or year.
this could be, and the best thing about this is we know that it's not unprecedented for a first-time Ballon d'Or winner to be on the tail end of his career.
Oh no,
I mean,
we have seen that.
we've seen that. So
Seen that.
yeah, we've seen that. So it's entirely possible, and it would be deserved. It would be more than deserved because I am not a Ronaldo or Messi hater, but the lock they had on that award was exposed that award for what it turned into, which was essentially how much money can we make from people who only know Messi and Ronaldo by just keeping throwing them out there. Listen, if your club team is an MLS team, I don't care what happens, you do not deserve to win the Ballon d'Or. You don't.
Well, and the fact that it literally became, okay, if you are not a goal scorer and you don't play in Spain, we
Mm-hmm.
don't want to. Manuel Neuer got screwed
Screwed.
2014,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and Dyke got screwed in
He
2019.
did. Yep.
Like there, and the season, my man Robert Lewandowski should have won it, they decided not to have an award
Right,
because
right,
apparently you hate Polish people too.
right. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, it was ridiculous. And listen, I hate to say it, Erling Haaland should have won.
yeah. No, you could that
He should
I
have won. He should have won. He was the best player in the world, if you want to call it that. If you want to call it that. I'll put it, I don't like saying best player in the world. I'll say this. He was the best person at his job.
mhm.
Because you can also say there were years that, you know, maybe N'Golo Kante should have won that award when Chelsea was winning and they won the World Cup. Because at the time, who was the best player at their position?
There's
It
also
was
the
N'Golo
question of
Kante.
I always looked at it kind of like what we do in North American sports, MVP.
Mm-hmm.
The most valuable player,
Right,
what they do.
right.
And, you made a great point too. Like, shit, N'Golo Kante probably should have won that award at least once
At least
because
once,
he
yeah.
was the most valuable player for
Mm-hmm.
both Chelsea and for France.
Yes. Yes. And so because the Erling Haaland knock was the whole well, Norway didn't do anything. Okay, well, if you want to hold on to that they didn't play well in one tournament, even though the other 50 games he did. Okay. But you
It
can't say that
wasn't.
about Conte.
I think that's a little disingenuous being a fan of, let's say, nations that aren't, let's say, big.
Exactly.
Like that was the
Exactly.
that's why talk about Lewandowski getting screwed. Look,
Hmm.
it's not my fault man's Polish.
Right.
If he was German, okay, maybe. Oh, he
Yeah.
doesn't have, silverware. What
Right.
do you think? The fact that Poland makes it to tournaments is because of him.
Right. Right.
Like,
And that should be rewarded. That should be rewarded. But it's Mike and I had a long, long show about this a long time ago. We just you know, we didn't kill it, but we were. He's like, watch. I was like, I never watch it. I said, in fact, I don't even know who wins until a couple of days
if
later. I don't
we
even
if
really
we
know.
actually segue all the way back to Eric Cantona, the last time I watched it was when he got up there and I think he was high and he gave that weird speech. Do you remember that? It was like the most French
I
fucking thing
vaguely
ever.
remember it. I vaguely
That
remember. I
like
think I saw it on
that is
YouTube a long
that
time
was the
ago.
year that Virgil got screwed, but at the same time I was angry. But then I saw that and I was like, I know you played for United. I think United fans overrate you a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
I can't hate you because you're just like weird and do
Right.
movies and
Right.
drop kicked a Nazi. So
I
yeah,
was gonna say, would
yeah.
he be as popular if he didn't drop kick that guy?
Well, that huge that in my universe that shoots you
Drop
up
kick.
like it's like drop kicked a fan. Okay, but the fan was a Nazi. Okay,
Yeah.
word. Like
Word. Yeah. I should have cut his suspension
word.
in half right there.
Yeah.
So you're going to condone job kicking fans? Well, if they're Nazis,
The
yeah, yeah,
Nazi?
I
Yes,
think
yes,
that's
I
okay.
do.
I think that's okay.
So sort of segueing the transfer window.
Yeah,
We haven't really done anything. Now, to be
yeah.
fair, I do, I think the summer's going to be bigger for us.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't look. I saw the reports that Arsenal were in on Ollie Watkins earlier
Mm-hmm.
today, and I'm not shocked that they were told we don't do it, especially because Duran has moved to Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
So Watkins is the guy there
He's the guy. Yeah, yeah.
here. It has to be frustrating. I mean, obviously, we've spoken about your injuries,
Mm-hmm.
but this was an issue for your guys coming into the season. And look, I'm not one of these people that's like, Chelsea, excuse me, Arsenal. What am I saying? Arsenal need, Osimhen or something.
Mm-hmm.
But man, don't you need a striker that does something different from Jesus and Havertz? Like
First of all, J Jesus played his best at City when he was playing where? On the wing.
the wing. Yeah, on the
Kai
wing.
Havertz plays the best for Arsenal when he's not up top. So you still don't have a striker.
It's
This is
almost
something that we've been barking about
it's
for
almost
years.
it's almost like, and I'm still confused why you weren't in on him. You should have been the club. Now, granted, he was injured first part of the season. That got Fulkreek from Dortmund
Mm-hmm.
because you saw during the Euros, Havertz is at his best when he's playing off the main striker,
Right.
and I know this show, and particularly some of us, and me and you are part of the, Olivier Giroux Appreciation Society.
Yeah.
Nicholas Volkrieg is a homeless German guy version of Olivier Giroux. He
Right.
doesn't do
Okay.
anything particularly special. He's
Right.
not going to wow you in the eye test, but he scores goals. And
Yeah.
you saw how the German national team used the two of them too. They could
Hmm.
play on the pitch at the same time,
Hmm.
or you could start Havertz if you could do that whole false nine thing,
Right.
fire a team down, and then the 60th minute bring on a freaking battering ram.
Right.
And
Right.
then it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't I I know you guys spent a lot of money on some high profile signings, Rice, etc.
Hmm.
Couple of years. Is it because I've heard like, okay, well, they don't really have they don't want to be Chelsea or City, hence, gotta
Hmm.
be a little bit more frugal now.
Hmm.
Or, is Arteta just like, I'm gonna die on this whole false nine hill?
Yeah. Arteta did finally come out and say, "I want a striker." He finally said it. So
Okay,
at
well,
least that's
that's healthy.
yeah, that's healthy. Yes, that's the first sign of therapy is admitting your flaws. So at least he came out and said that we need a striker. But the thing that really gets to me about this is that I don't. He has no issues bringing up younger players that are in the academy and giving them minutes. Why are they all midfielders? I mean, like, look. I'm not saying you have to go and spend 100 million pounds on the best striker in the world, but I don't even see any growth of strikers in your academy. I don't
Yeah.
see any kids coming up, some 16-year-old who you throw out there at the end of the game against um, you know, against the Crystal Palace or something like that, and you're going, "Oh, we got something here." Or even if that is just some kid who's like, "No, I'm a striker." Not I'm willing to play striker. Because we have a lot of guys who are willing to play forward. But the last guy that I can recall that Arsenal had that said, I want to play center forward was Theo Walcott. And he wasn't very good when he played center forward. He was best where he
No.
was where? On the wing.
Hey,
So and then when he because that's when he had his best scoring season. And then when it wasn't working out, he said, okay, put me back on the wing. And Arsenal said, thanks, but you're kind of done here. You need to move on. But that's the last guy I can recall who was like, I want that job. That's the player I want to be. That's who Arsenal does not have. That's who Arsenal have not had in so long. And look, we were clamoring for somebody. Look, are we still waiting for Thierry Henry part two? Of course we are. Wouldn't be? We're waiting for the next side to play striker. We were clamoring for our next Patrick Vieira. Well, we got that with Declan Rice. So we have that player now. So now it's like, okay, who is going to be the person that says, I want to be the guy up in the front in the middle? Look, I don't want to put Olivier Giroud in that category because I don't think it's fair to him because he probably did say those things and I don't think he was really given the full opportunity because when he did, unfortunately, he caught the Arsenal disease and he got hurt. So but
he also spent a long time on some kind of flawed,
that's
dysfunctional
what I was going to say too.
Arsenal
Yeah, he was on those teams that were fighting for top four because Arsene Wenger thought
size.
that top four was a trophy. So
And ditto Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang.
yeah, but Pierre Aubameyang, winger, he's on the wing. So that's the only thing. It's just like you're going like, oh, okay, and they're not playing 4-4-2. You're not playing a 4-4-2. So that's where it's just like, okay. And Aubameyang, this is another problem I'm having with this too. Aubameyang was already like 29 years old when they brought him in. He was already on. You know what I mean? You're not. Where's the kid who's 22, 23, 24, who's gonna be there for a number of years, who's gonna score goals for you a number of years? Not somebody you're bringing in who's already proven himself elsewhere to be this great striker. Comes in, might have a decent season for you, one or two, and then that's kind of it. And that's all we've seemed to have had recently. So that's why, and I'm probably talking out of my ass here, and I'm sure I'm wrong about several points, but this is the way I've felt. And I just when I look at a team like Aston Villa or I look at a team like Newcastle, and I can say they have a bona fide center forward. Why don't we have a bona fide center forward?
Well, and maybe this is a good segue into those teams that have surprised and those that have surprised in, let's say, the bad way.
Right.
Speaking as a Liverpool fan, I said this, I think I said this on the show 3, 4 years ago when I
Hmm.
first came on. I said, there's this Swedish guy that plays in Spain that I really want. Everybody
Hmm.
screwed that one up
Yeah.
because
Hmm.
Isak could have been had.
Yeah, he
Uh,
could have. He could have.
and let's be real. So I think the top three is going to look Liverpool, Arsenal, City,
Hmm.
Liverpool, City, Arsenal. It's going to be something.
It's going to be something
Those are
like
going to
that.
be the
Yeah, I
three
agree.
top teams.
I think it's going to be Liverpool and then City Arsenal will flip around. I really don't see anybody catching Liverpool just because, Liverpool, every team goes through that slump. And I feel like Liverpool's kind of like went through theirs. And,
I think our slump
and
was right after Christmas,
yeah, that's what I think.
and
That's what
none
I
of
think.
you
And
guys took
nobody
advantage. Yeah,
capitalized off of it. Nobody capitalized off of it. So
but I'll keep it real. I have no idea who's going to round out the top
I
four.
don't either.
Because there's like I see four teams where you can make a good argument for, but
Yeah.
also an argument against.
Exactly. Exactly. When you look at who the other teams are, there's one familiar name in that role. There's one. Because you
Yeah,
have Forest, you have Newcastle, you have Bournemouth, and you have Villa. And unfortunately, Brighton has really fallen off because they were playing very, very well. In the last few years, Brighton was that team that if you needed a win, you did not want to play Brighton.
no, no,
You did
no,
not.
it's no.
If you were looking across and you were like, oh, Liverpool lost. Oh, we got to get a win this weekend. Who are we playing? Oh, playing
And if you
Brighton.
had to go to the South Coast, God
Yep.
help you.
Yep. Yep.
Uh yeah, no, there's I I I I think Villa, and in some ways Villa reminds me a lot of Newcastle last year.
Hmm.
I think I think they can probably still wind up top six, top seven.
Yeah.
I don't think they're seriously top four because look, when you haven't been in Europe for a long time and you
Hmm.
haven't been in the Champions League, especially with this new format,
Right.
I don't think they have the squad to do it. They have some
Yeah.
very good players, but I
Hmm.
don't think they have the depth to do it.
Hmm.
I look at Forest, I look at Bournemouth, who are the
Yeah.
two rank outsiders.
Right. And
But
Bournemouth stomped Forest.
but both of them don't have European commitments. And they
Yeah.
both have managers who I implicitly trust.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
As if we win the league, Slot probably will get manager of the season.
Right.
Nuno Espiritu Santos, which, by the way, that's the most Catholic fucking name ever. Uh, I don't know if you've thought about that. I think about it constantly. I'm like, that's the most
Sorry,
Catholic.
man. Mike and I a long time ago have so humbly called him our uncle. Because if you sat me and Mike next to him, we'd say, this guy's our uncle, you would totally believe it. So that's Uncle Nuno to me and Mike.
Nuno probably should win manager of the year,
I
man,
agree. I
because
agree.
what he has done with so much less,
Hmm.
and considering how bloated that squad was when he
Hmm.
got there,
When he got there, yep.
and what he's transformed it into, it's
Hmm.
remarkable. And if you look at their squad, yeah, they have some decent players. But other than Morgan Gibbs White, there's no one that like terrifies.
No,
I
there's
mean,
nobody on that team that I see other teams clamoring to spend 50 million pounds for.
it's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
They're getting production out of Chris Wood. Chris
Yeah.
Wood. So, both of those teams are possibilities.
Hmm.
But you have to wonder, again, there's no one on either of those teams that really strikes fear into your heart.
Hmm.
And then there's Newcastle and Chelsea that are more like established.
Right.
And there's things to like about both of them. But there
Right.
are also issues that for both of them, right? Like
Right.
Chelsea, if you just look at their midfield and their attack, okay, that's pretty good.
Hmm.
Then you look at the defense, and it's like your center backs are just kind of okay.
Right.
Cucurella is the strangest player.
Yeah.
Because
He's so
when
annoying.
he's good, he's world class.
Oh, yeah.
When he's bad, it's like, why do you play professional football?
Right, right, right,
Abject trash.
right.
And
I've never seen someone with more wild, unproductive slide tackles I've ever seen in my
no,
life than
it's
Gronk.
so crazy. There's no
No,
middle.
no.
And look, and I even asked Chelsea Mike this. In August, they had 8 goalkeepers in the squad. And the best that you can give me is Robert Sanchez?
Yeah. I
How
don't even know who that
bad are
is.
the other 7 guys, Stead?
Right, right,
Like,
right.
that's that's something.
That is something.
And then
And who is playing for Bournemouth and playing well? Kepa.
yeah, he held up his part of the bargain.
He
Yeah,
did. He's playing
yeah,
well. He's
playing
playing
well.
well. So it's and that's the thing is Chelsea. Let's not forget Chelsea creeped all the way up into third
Yeah,
for a
some
while.
Chelsea fans thought they were in the title race.
They thought they were, and then now they have won one game in their last five. They've won one game, and they plummeled right back down. And listen, I think who's the striker? Who's the guy, the goal scorer? I keep
Nico
forgetting his name.
Jackson,
No, the other guy,
Jack-
the white kid.
White.
Why am I
Oh,
forgetting his?
the guy they got from City, Cole Palmer.
Yeah, Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer, I think, is the most talented forward in England right now. Like
I'd agree with
as an
that
English
assessment.
for an English player, I think he's the
I would
most
agree
talented
with that
forward. Yeah,
assessment. Yeah.
I think he's great. Nicholas Jackson loves kicking the ball over the goal, but
Well,
he has flashes of brilliance. I think he just needs to develop a little bit more. He's going to be a solid player,
he
but
he has the raw material. He failed eye test, one of those guys that nevertheless gets goals.
yeah,
So yeah, no, like going forward, and indeed the midfield, Chelsea are all right.
hmm
And once you get to that back line and the goalkeeper, it's like,
yeah,
ooh. And then
yeah,
Newcastle, I mean, they have maybe the most informed striker, not just in the league, but in Europe, in
yeah,
Isak.
and Isak, yeah. And
But
Arsenal, he was in London, and Arsenal Twitter went nuts because someone said they spotted Isak landing in London in the airport. So everyone was like, "Oh my God, we're gonna sign him! We're gonna sign him!" And it never. I don't even think it was close to. I'm not even sure why he was there, but
probably
that guy has
taking
been.
that flight to Newcastle.
Yeah, connected. Yeah, that's probably
Uh,
what's happening.
but you look at them and like you saw this with this year, their starting 11 is very good.
Hmm
Once you get past that starting 11, the quality of depth is questionable.
Okay.
That's the way that I would put it. And I know
hmm
you're a bigger Eddie Howe fan than I am.
Yeah, I'm a
I
massive Eddie
don't
Howe
think
fan.
he's a bad man by any means, but I also just think he's Eddie Howe, if that
Yeah,
makes any sense.
yeah,
Uh, so I mean, I really have it. It could be any one of those 4 teams.
yeah. It could be. It could be. Now let's fly. Let's climb down the table a little bit. I
Yeah,
I
shall we?
I I don't think I'm looking at Brighton and Fulham. That's kind of where you expect them to be for the most part. I think Brighton's a little lower than I expect them to be, but Fulham, Fulham's having a decent year. And I'm quietly pulling for Fulham because they have Emil Smith Rowe on the squad, and I've always been a fan of his, so I'm hoping he's having a decent season. But if we keep going down, you're seeing though, is anyone surprised that Manchester United is where they are? I'm not that surprised.
No, no. If no, and I feel sorry for Ruben Amorim. I'm just gonna say that
Mm,
right now
hmm
because he told them flat out, "Hey, man, yes, I will take this job in the summer
hmm
when I have time to look at the squad, drain
Right.
the swamp, and look." He One of the reasons he didn't get the Liverpool job was apparently he didn't his personality clashed with our board. That's
Okay.
the thing. But part of it was he really wanted to tinker with the squad, and the board was like, Jurgen Klopp's leaving you something good. You don't need to tinker with this.
Right.
You want to rebuild, homie? You have inherited the mother of all rebuild. So have fun. But I do feel sorry for him because, with the exception of Ugarte, who he managed at Sporting Lisbon,
Mm-hmm.
Ahmed, who I think is a really good player,
Mm-hmm.
maybe Kobe Mainu, especially I think they're using him as a 10 now,
Mm-hmm.
might be his position in this system.
Right.
And weirdly enough, McGuire, because they're playing a back three now, and let's say that masks his deficiencies.
That's what
Other
that's what
than
Garrett
like
was doing.
other than four guys, none of these players remotely fit his system. And
Yeah.
like it's gonna if they finish 10th, it might be like and you
Yeah.
growth from some players and
Mm-hmm.
it can only get better. Like the bleeding has stopped effectively.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think that's how you have to approach it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh the disconcerting thing though, if you're a United fan, is okay, you have to get rid of people.
Yeah.
And that's easier said than done. The fact
Right.
that Marcus Rashford is still collecting a paycheck from them
Right.
and he hasn't been freaking seen since
And
November,
I think he's
that's
on like
bad.
200,000 pounds a week or something like that.
Hmm.
So, and so
That's
that's not an easy player to move.
that's not, yeah. So like I think that they're right about where they should be.
Yeah, I concur. I from United fans too, I would say United, I can't say that United fans are like quote unquote handling this situation well, because I don't think United fans had any expectations this season anyway. It
I agree.
they
I agree.
seemed pretty bleak from the beginning, and I just think you're seeing I would say that this has been probably the most accurate prediction of a team that's not going to do well by their fans that I've
Mm,
ever seen, because they definitely didn't overshoot that. At least from the United fans I know, they were like, no, this isn't going to be a good year for us.
yeah.
This is going to be bad. So they're not, and they're not going to qualify for Europe outside of this for this season. So maybe that's a good thing, because then the funds will be
Well,
somewhat
that's a blessing and a
wishy-washy.
curse
Yeah.
because everything we've sort of seen from this new ownership is they're not the Glazers in so much that they're going to spend money on like people just
Right.
spend money. Like
Right.
I never forgot. I think it was a January window when they took broken down Alexis Sanchez off you, and
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
I
25 million
legitimately
pounds.
I remember when that broke, and my reaction was just like, why?
Yeah.
Like what? Like
And
why?
we were like,
Oh yeah, you
go
you
ahead.
at
Because
that
he
point,
was
yeah,
already disgruntled
yeah,
by
okay.
then.
Uh, but it seems to be now the opposite problem. Like
Hmm.
they're cutting fun. They're Elon Musk. They're
Yeah.
cutting funds to cut funds,
Right.
and it's like, okay, well, you're about to embark on this rebuild
Yeah.
without European money. This could be. This may take a little. All I can say for United fans is patience. You're gonna need
Yeah.
patience here.
That's because all I was thinking was this may be a time, because you're not going to have European money, see what's in your pipeline for your young kids, and give them the chance to play a bit more, because you're not, you don't have the funds to bring in the big guys. But also, I've seen it as an Arsenal fan.
Yeah,
Once we started playing the talent that we had coming that all of a sudden they started playing better, and they weren't expensive. So there's something to be said about taking a hit to kind of rebuild. So we'll see what United does. It just seems like United just hasn't gotten back to what they feel they should be. And I hate when United fans complain, because I also say, yeah, you've won like 5 trophies in that time too. So shut up. You even won Europe. We didn't win Europe. We finaled twice. We didn't win anything in Europe. So we're still struggling on that boat. I'll never get over the fact that Arsenal does not have a single a Champions League or Europa League title. I will be. I just hope before I die they get at least one. Just give me some reason to cheer. Go win the Conference League for all I care. Just win something, please. So as we trek a bit lower, though, I think the team that I am most shocked by, has to be Spurs. I mean, I'm sorry. This team on paper
Ah, but
On paper,
that's key.
on paper is top six.
Yeah.
I think they are. On paper is top six. Now, I personally think I'm putting a lot of this on the manager.
So
I just don't think his system is working at all with this
I
squad.
I have a lot of Ange Postecoglou love because of what he did at Celtic.
Mm-hmm.
But when he took the Tottenham job, and I'm sure it was on this show, I said this. I said he has to be slightly, he can still play attacking football,
Mm-hmm.
but he needs to be less naive and more pragmatic because it's
Right.
not going to translate to
No.
England.
No.
And it hasn't at all.
No.
And you can't win anything playing kamikaze ball. And the moment that I checked out was it was around this time last year. You remember that
Mm-hmm.
match when they went down not to 10 but 9 men?
Yeah.
Chelsea
Right.
kept playing a high line, and I'm like, why? Like
Why? Yeah.
this is you make Jurgen Klopp look like Antonio Conte. That's a problem. Like
Right.
that, this is not sustainable.
No, it's
And
not.
he's doubled down on it this season with a squad that has been totally decimated by injury.
By injury. By
Yeah,
injury. This
but
and this is my problem with it too, though. And what bothers me about this is you cannot take success at a club like Celtic and think that that's automatically going to translate to a club like Spurs in a league
or
like the Premier League.
or a league like England,
You
like
can't you can't do you listen if that because if that was true, every Olympiacos manager would be on some Premier League team. You know what I mean? Because like seriously, Scotland has become a one-team league. Rangers are not Rangers of old. They're not. They're not. And now, if you go to Celtic, you have the best squad in Scotland by a full body length.
that. I'll put it very succinctly. Brendan Rodgers in Scotland looks like a good manager,
It's like a good
and I,
manager.
as a Liverpool fan, know that is not true.
Steven Gerrard. Didn't he manage
Yeah,
Celtic?
Rangers.
Rangers. Okay, I'm sorry. So, but I'm just going like, just because he was successful at Celtic, I'm sorry, dude. You could give me and you Celtic gear and roll us out there, we'd finish at least second.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just, I'm sorry,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just not impressive as a from a management standpoint
Well, and
to
it's
win at Celtic. And
it,
listen, and it's the main reason why I know we tried to get it on a Scottish football league on this show, and it failed because I watched a few games that weren't Celtic and Rangers, and I was like, this is this is boring
if
because
you
of the
don't if you
disparity in talent between those
yeah, and
clubs.
if you don't have any context,
Yeah,
we don't.
yeah,
It is hard.
yeah.
What I will say is, it's not even. It's the jump from Celtic to Spurs, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also the style,
Mm-hmm.
and then coming to this league. Now,
Mm-hmm.
granted, this is not the Premier League of 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
A German guy changed all that,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't play this aggressive and reckless a style of football.
No.
And I thought, okay, Ange does his thing in Scotland. And I think I may have even said it on the pod. Or I definitely probably said it at least once in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
The natural progression, or the best place I thought he could go, would be Germany because everyone
Mm-hmm.
plays a goddamn high line in that league.
Yeah, that's why
Like,
German games are so fun to watch.
yeah, like can you imagine him at Dortmund? Like
Yeah,
that would work.
right.
I'm sorry, this can't work in England.
No.
It
And
can't.
no, and listen, from the general understanding of what the relegation battle is, technically speaking, Spurs are in a relegation battle.
Oh, they absolutely are.
They're only
They
7 points, or they're 8 points out of the drop zone. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to happen because the three teams that are in the drop zone are just so bad, but you're smelling when you're smelling 15th and 16th place in February, because I know it's still technically January, but they don't play again until this weekend, which is February. You are at 24 points in February. And the teams that are below you, don't forget, Everton is at 23 points. And Spurs have the second worst record in the last 5 games in the Premier League. The only team that's been worse than them is Southampton. So, and listen, I never thought this was going to work. Primarily because I didn't think it'd be this bad, but I didn't think that Spurs would be competing for trophies just because I was like, this guy coached at Celtic. And he brought a bunch of Japanese guys with him, which was cool, but still, you're at Celtic. You're at Celtic. You're supposed to win at Celtic.
And he inherited, I know he's made some signings, but like he inherited a not so great core. This isn't
No,
a slot walking into Klopp's Liverpool.
no. Harry Kane's gone, bro.
Harry Kane's gone. Son is declining.
Yeah.
Richarlison
Was never
sometimes,
there.
yeah,
He's
he's
never
never
there.
there.
He's hurt all the time, too.
You know, they've never really figured out the goalkeeping situation.
No.
Yeah, I they're not going to get relegated, but
Right. They're not.
I'll say this: 16th or 17th might be where they ultimately show up.
Right.
I'm going to say this with chest on this show now because I don't. One thing I will say about Daniel Levy is he will fire you when he thinks it's time for you to go.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to have a Ryan Mason sighting before the season's end.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Ange is gonna I don't think
I don't.
I can't see him finishing out the season.
No, I can't either.
Yeah.
I think I just say the team that has completely underperformed the worst this season is Spurs. And I think it's true by a landslide. By a landslide. Because I mean, listen, I don't know many Spurs fans, but the ones I do know are utterly embarrassed. And I'm not talking about our buddy Los. I'm not talking about Los. I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about just other people that I know who happen to follow Spurs, and they just shake their head. They're just like,
It's
this
straight
is,
up nihilism. Like my
yeah,
buddy Mark from grad school. It's like to the point that I texted him today during the Europa League match, and he was like, I've like effectively checked out.
yeah,
I'm like,
mm,
that's bad. Like,
yeah, right, right. So that's, and listen, I never got into the Arsenal Spurs thing. I just never did because when I started watching soccer, Spurs weren't like that. They weren't really like they were recently. You know, they weren't finishing top 4 and everything like that. Arsenal was battling with Manchester United, so I hate Manchester United. That's the
oh,
team I don't like.
I think
So,
everyone sort of our era,
mm,
that's the kind of go-to thing. Like I know a lot of people, particularly Liverpool fans who live in London, want
right,
to make Liverpool Arsenal a rivalry, and I'm like,
yeah,
that's not really a
not
rivalry.
really a
Never
rivalry. No,
really been good at the same time.
no, they haven't been.
And I'll keep it real. Like in the 90s, I was like kind of an unofficial Arsenal fan because I'm
Yeah,
like, they're the only thing that can keep those bastards
right,
from winning.
exactly. I've gone to Liverpool bars with a buddy of mine who's a Liverpool fan and when I was living in DC, and I had on my red Arsenal jersey and no one really noticed until a little bit later on. And every Liverpool fan was like, yeah, I don't mind you guys that much. It's
Yeah,
just
that
there's no there's no
there's
heat
no
there.
feelings
There's
at
no heat there.
all.
No,
Like,
no, 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 no. And so, but I can't stand Manchester United. I'll never, ever, ever feel happy. I'm always happy when they're bad. I just am. But as far as Spurs, but Spurs have not won anything of significance since I've been watching the game closely.
so
So I genuinely feel bad because I'm feeling like, listen, they got an influx of money from the NFL. You got
yeah.
an influx of money from the sale of Gareth Bale. You got a huge money from with Harry Kane. Like you have had several successful players come through your system, and you've had this influx of cash of a brand new stadium and everything like that. To come off of that, that was in what 2018, 2019, or whatever when that happened. To this, where and I'm going to include last year too, because last year they were falling apart last year. Look, They blew it in 15-16 when they s the bed and Arsenal ended up finishing second to Leicester. That was their year and
That
they
was the
blew it.
season
They were the best.
yeah.
They were the best team in the league that year, but they just couldn't win at the right times. And then they completely imploded going down the stretch. So, and then they got that Champions League final. So I was like, okay, this team is just going to be something to be around, to then just go like this. And I don't see a way out anytime soon. That's the part that I'm going like, well, what are y'all going to do? What are you going to do? Because you have a lot of money tied up in the squad. You got a lot. So hopefully, though, but again, I'll also say this. I'll go back to my earlier point where I still think this is the manager's fault. And I think if you got a manager in there that can kind of tighten things up a little bit, I could see Spurs winning 4 or 5 games down the stretch, getting an additional 10 to 15 to 20 points, bumping up in the table a little bit, maybe finishing around 14th or something like that on 40 points. I could see something like that happening.
More pragmatism and just some health
Yeah,
go a long way.
would go a long way.
Really
Yeah,
go a long way.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
but yeah, it's hard when your manager is coming out guns a blazing.
yeah. Right,
Way.
right.
No
But
sense of
yeah,
situational football.
right.
And look, when your back line is like they played a back line today of Vanderbent, who just came back,
Mm-hmm.
and Archie Gray, because the Romanian guy's hurt again because
Yeah, Archer Gray's a midfielder
he's
too,
made of
right?
but
Yeah, he's a
yeah,
mid,
Gray's a defensive
and
midfielder.
he's
So I was like,
18.
yeah, a kid, straight
So,
up kid.
sorry, there's very few positions where I don't think you should play an 18-year-old. Center back is one of them.
Yeah.
Don't think you should play
Yeah.
back there at 18. No.
Well, United's figuring that out with getting Euro, and I feel
Yeah.
sorry for him. And I'm like, I don't think you can judge him because the team's so bad.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the 19-year-old, like, we were linked heavily with him, and
Mm-hmm.
like it came down to playing time, and we were like, no, kid, you're fifth choice,
Mm-hmm.
unless things go horribly wrong.
Right.
You're only gonna play like the FA Cup, like you're not gonna
Right.
be team in
Right.
the league unless horrible things happen.
Right. 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 Right.
Like,
Right. Well,
so let's segue to relegation and then
and
quick.
then Champions League. Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought we'd go for about an hour, and we're already at an hour 10. So
yeah. We're waxing poetically about the Nigerian
that's true.
team. So, in terms of relegation, I think this is almost sorted.
I think it's, yeah, I agree. I think it's sorted. I do.
Southampton are terrible.
Yeah.
Like they're actually terrible.
Southampton's looking like Derby
Yeah.
from 2 decades ago, but they're looking like that. I don't know if they can win another game. They just look horrible. They look horrible.
And there's no one on that squad that remotely frightens you.
No, no. It's over for them.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is, it's like I think that they also believe that it's over for them, and they're
Oh,
just
I think they've been there for the last 2 months.
yeah, they're just rolling out there. Just I think some players are out there playing for jobs. Hopefully they'll see that they're playing well and they can get picked up by another Premier League club and not have to go down to the championship. But that's pretty much it. I don't really Aaron Ramsdale. That's the guy from me. That's the guy from
Yeah.
Arsenal. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you see a name and you go, that's right, that's who that guy was. I
Mhm.
read it twice before I realized that was him. I was like, oh yeah, that's his name. It didn't even click with me. But it's a shame. It's really sad that they're having this type of a season where they've been basically relegated since November, and it's not going to change anytime soon. So yeah, it's pretty much over for them. Ipswich, newly promoted team,
Kind of
but
the same deal. Like, I think the managers maybe got a future someplace else.
mhm,
Uh, but again, if you look at that squad outside of the young striker,
mhm,
there's no one there that stands out. And Liverpool last week, they're like, here's how you beat Ipswich. Cut
yeah,
off the supply to
right.
the one guy who could hurt you, and you're going to be okay.
And you're gonna be yeah, and you're gonna stomp them.
I still think Leicester City goes down. And the reason I say that is every goddamn year, and this might be the year I'm proven right. Every year when we do that preseason rankings thing, I have Wolves going down. And every year at the end of the season, I look stupid because they do just enough to be safe.
Yeah.
I have a weird feeling that's going to be the case again.
Yeah.
The reason I say that is, at least with Wolves, there's a handful of guys on that team.
There's some decent players. Yeah.
Yeah, like Cunha,
Hmm.
Korean striker He-Chan. He's not,
Yeah. Yeah. I like him. I
but he
like him.
comes up clutch. He scores
Hmm.
important goals.
Hmm.
Andre or
Hmm.
Ade, the Brazilian midfielder. Leicester City, I know they've been playing slightly better with the new manager. Uh,
Yeah. They still lost their last four, so
but they
they got
still
a quick
lost
little
their
bump.
last
But they,
four.
yeah,
And ultimately, this is the same team that got relegated 2 years ago. They looked really good in the championship because
hmm,
they had guys who were prem proven, but there were guys
right,
who were prem proven
right,
go down.
right.
Like I still look at that defense and I'm like, they got that dude, the Woot, whatever the heck his name is,
Wout.
Perez.
Yeah.
Perez. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like you got problems, man. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it.
But Ruud van Nistelrooy is it? He's also kind of new to this job too,
Mhm.
so he's trying to say things. I think the reason why I don't think Leicester's going to go down is because it's Leicester and they've won before. They've won. I mean, they've won the not. It's not the Premier League that they won that's making me think they won't go down. It's that FA Cup that they won.
That was a long time ago.
I
That was
know,
a
and they've
long
been
time.
relegated since they've won it. But for
That's
some
that's
reason,
that's sort of it, man.
I don't know why that's still with me because it has no. I'm not speaking logically at all. But for some reason, it's still with me where I feel like Leicester will figure out a way to pull it out. And maybe because I feel like Ruben Nistelrooy will be able to do it. But
I think that last spot is them and the Wolves, and
yeah,
I'm slightly more comfortable with Wolves than I am
with
Leicester.
Leicester.
But look, it's really I think we've identified two of the three. It's just figuring out what one of those two.
Yeah. Well, Leicester and Wolves games will be exciting to watch down the stretch then because they're going to be battling
Yes,
it out to try to stay up. So, I've always liked to watch the teams that are right in that bubble when you get to April. It's really because those guys are playing,
those
you know,
matches are fun,
they're fun.
and if you're trying to win something, you
Right.
don't want to play those teams because
No, you
all of
don't.
a sudden,
Because
they look very different.
yeah,
Play
they're
them in
fighting for their
October or
lives.
September.
Yeah, they really, really do. So that'll be fun to watch. That'll be fun to watch. But this I think the next 6 weeks are really gonna say a lot about how things are gonna finish up at the top and at the bottom of the table.
Agreed.
But I can see though, but when you look at places like 7 through 16, I could see all kinds of craziness
Yeah,
going
and
on.
that goes
I
back to
could.
the point I made. Like, there's a mighty middle in this league.
Yeah, yeah.
There,
Mm-hmm.
there's one or two identifiably bad teams.
Mm-hmm.
There's some very good teams up top, but
Mm-hmm.
there's not that like dominant, all-conquering force.
Yeah,
And then there's actual parity, and it's not like the NFL where it's crappy parity.
right.
It's genuine parity.
Right. It is. It is. And then what's exciting about this season too is you never watch, unless you're watching the top 5 or 6 teams playing against the bottom two. It's no surprise what the ending is. It
No,
really isn't going to be a shock. If West Ham, who's been struggling recently, but if West Ham wake up and beat City and beat Liverpool in consecutive weeks, it's going to be a wow, did you see that? But it's not going to be an earth-shattering thing, which is what makes the league great. Because I think a few years ago, had that happened, you would have been like, that would have been crazy. But now I think you're seeing it so often and
ten
week in and
years,
week out, you don't know if you're gonna win. You don't know,
ten,
and that's
10
what I
years,
really enjoy.
10 years ago, there was no middle.
Mm-mm.
We have that now, and
Right.
it's large.
It's large, which is, and I think that's the worst possible thing for the Super League So let's segue to Champions League, because Champions League
Yes,
is
so
the
let's
precursor to what they want the Super League to be, who just wants give me your top heavy guys and throw them over there.
so
It's not like
so
that in
we
England.
have we have gotten through the league stage
Hmm.
of the new confangled Champions League. And I'll straight up say this. I still, and off air you said this, Stead, and I in the same category. Maybe I'm old. I prefer the old format.
Hmm.
And I think the old format, the new format is very disadvantaged to smaller clubs
Hmm.
because the guaranteed away leg
Hmm.
against clubs like, I don't know, Red Star Belgrade or
Right.
something, there's nothing worse than going to some random city in Eastern Europe that you
Yeah.
don't know in some random Tuesday or Wednesday night
Hmm.
and having like 20,000 angry Serbs yelling.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like those were, Sheriff knocking off Real Madrid. I don't know
Hmm.
if we're going to see something like that
Yeah. Right.
ever again.
Right.
And that is one of those matches is etched into my mind.
Right.
On the other hand, the old format, the final match day of before the knockouts was usually a formality. There was
Hmm.
one or two spots open for grabs.
Yeah. A lot of times they were trying to see if the teams really wanted to be in the top position or not,
Exactly.
depending on their injuries. They're like, nah, we're good. We'll just stay in second or something like that.
But with this new format, I'll keep it real. The last match day was madness.
Hmm.
I thoroughly Hey, and speaking both of us who root for teams who are guaranteed top eight,
Hmm.
knew that last match was effectively meaningless.
Hmm.
I got to enjoy the madness that
Right.
was the last uh you know match day. So I'll say this. It does create a lot of potential drama at the end.
Yes.
There were moments the other day where it looked like City wasn't going to go through.
It did. It did.
I mean,
And
if you're following my social media, you saw this because you just saw in all caps Zagreb,
yeah, yeah.
Bruges. Uh,
Yep.
you know, uh, but ultimately City did get through only
Right.
to have to play two random extra matches
Hmm.
in February. And
Hmm.
that's where I will say I think this new format gets very interesting because
Yeah.
there's going to be one or two heavy hitters
Right.
don't make it out of this playoff.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think my main issue with it, I know we also spoke about this off air, was just I because the games are on when they're on, and I'm a regular at 9 to 5 working man, it's a bit hard to keep up with it. At least what I liked about the old format was I know who and where they were playing throughout this preliminary stage before the knockout stage occurs. With this particular format, I didn't really know who they were playing, so almost a day of the game. So that part of it was just something there where I think that's just more of a you have to adapt to the new thing, and I just hadn't yet. And I'm an old guy, and I really enjoyed the home and home types of series that they would have. But I I agree though with this format that it did lead to some drama for a lot of the big clubs at the end, because it's not just Man City that struggled. You know, Juventus is in there,
Yes,
and not that, yeah,
uh,
teams that
Bayern.
typically Bayern is there,
Yeah,
and PSG especially, who I still have no faith in Champions League with PSG. I never will till they prove me wrong. Um, and Milan is also in there, but let's not forget too. I'm going to throw some props to Aston Villa for getting that eighth slot. Good for you, Villa. Good
and
for you.
doing it against because I know we just like crapped upon the Scottish Premier League,
Right.
but Celtic have been surprisingly good in
And
Europe this year.
they're
They
through. They're in the
really
knockout.
have.
They got to the playoff. Yeah. So, but good for you. Good for you, Villa. It's they as we discussed before, they don't have the luxury of the large bloated squads that you can when you're playing in Europe, but they have managed their minutes really well. And I think that they are wise in the way they handled it because you're looking back at them. Villa's in eighth also in the Premier League, but only 3 points out. So Villa could sneak it back into that fourth spot again because now the schedule's going to lighten up a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
and they don't have to play two
right.
random matches in Germany.
Exactly. They don't have to play them. So if they have a couple of knocks, they can get a little healthier and they can, you know, manage it. And um the just the way that they have managed to navigating Champions League is hard when you're new to it and you don't do it very often. And then you have to navigate it in a whole new format. The way they've
Yeah,
done it has been admirable, and Unai Emery deserves a lot of credit for that. Unai Emery is also another reason why I don't think Arsenal's going to ever really get Ollie Watkins anyway, because there's no way he should sell him. And Ollie Watkins is also 29. So,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, but, good on you. But I'd be interested to see how this month plays out because you have the teams that finish in the top eight. They can just kind of hang, they can chill out, and they can really just sit back and watch. I don't fully understand how the bracketing is going to work out yet, but in the end, it doesn't really matter to me right now. Let me
No,
just
and
so I because I saw how they had you're either gonna play Arsenal or it's gonna be Arsenal or Barcelona or Arsenal or Barcelona over there. So I was like, I didn't get it at first, but then I was like, it's not really important. Let's just get through these playoff matches because as I was going through those matches, I went, these are some really fun games to
we
watch.
can sit back and chill. And I look this hell. As a Liverpool fan, I'm thrilled because we're guaranteed to be okay in this tournament till March. And if
Hmm.
anything, this actually helps our title challenge because
Right.
other than you, so City has to play
They
again.
gotta play.
They
Yep.
have to play
They have
two
to play again.
extra matches.
Yeah. And City's a
Uh,
little beat up too. They got some
and
knocks.
they
Mhm.
are.
And De Bruyne is getting old. He is. I mean, he's getting old. I mean, it happens to everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh, in terms of who realistically can win this tournament, I have four what I would consider favorites. Real Madrid, even though they are in the playoff, but this is the Champions League.
Mm-hmm.
This is Real Madrid.
It's Real Madrid.
And Mbappe, I think, is kind of starting to figure
Oh, he's
things
starting to figure it
out.
out.
I
I've been watching a lot of Madrid games, and his face looks different, and that's why everybody should be afraid.
So like I don't think you can count them out. Uh Barcelona, because on their day they can absolutely rip you apart. And
Yeah, and I think they have a few.
Hansi Flick's a mental patient.
Yeah,
He will put up 9 goals against you just because he can.
right. But did you think this is another reason why I have to push Barcelona a bit too? Because I didn't think Yamin Lamal would be this good after the Euro.
No.
I
And
didn't think he'd be
and
this good.
even though he's clearly in decline, you're seeing a less tired, less beat up version of Robert
Of Robert
Lewandowski.
Lewandowski. Yeah.
And Lewandowski doesn't have to be like vintage Lewandowski.
Hmm.
All he has to do is channel that guy for one knockout stage match or one
Hmm.
moment in a
I was
knockout
about to say he
match.
can give him 10 minutes. He'll
Yes,
put two
exactly.
in. He'll put two in, and then he can just and then sub him out. You know? Yeah.
Liverpool simply because our record in the tournament so far and the fact
Hmm.
that look, we we abused a very good Bayern Leverkusen team.
Hmm.
And granted, they weren't at their best, but
Yeah, but you did abuse them
the
pretty bad.
two the 2-0 against Real Madrid, that is the proverbial. It's not a monkey, it's King fucking Kong. That in and of itself, I think, was very important.
Hmm.
Team which I think a lot of people are sleeping on, Inter.
I knew you were going to say that.
They are well coached, they are talented enough, and I probably watch more Serie A than G does.
Yeah.
Antonio Conte is gunning to win the league at Napoli to the
Hmm.
point that he fielded a freaking squad of test tube babies
Mm.
in the Coppa d'Italia.
Right.
I don't give a shit.
Right.
There might come a point in April where Napoli is so far ahead of Inter in the domestic league
Hmm.
that Inter might just be like, nah, all of our eggs in this one basket.
Yeah.
Uh they're they got to the final 2 years ago on merit.
Yeah.
And I'm not certain if this current squad is as good, but they're they're right up there. And
Yeah.
I don't know, there's a lot of guys on that team maybe I kind of root for, like Mkhitaryan. I always
Hmm.
liked him. And the fact that he's like found a team and a niche,
Yeah.
found health. Because when he went to Arsenal, he was never healthy.
That was such a rough experiment. And that was so disappointing because he had flashes at Arsenal where you're going, there he is, and then he whenever you saw him just trying to slow down when nobody was even around him, you're going, oh, here we go again.
Yep.
Here we go again. Yeah.
In
Yeah.
terms of contenders, teams that I can see winning this,
Hmm.
I'll throw your boys in that bag because
Yeah,
I
thank you. I appreciate it.
well, no,
I,
I think defensively and in terms of your midfield,
mhm.
you'll be in more matches than you won't. You might not
Yeah.
win it, but it at least those components give you a chance.
Yeah.
Ditto kind of Atletico Madrid. Like I hate Diego Simeone, but I
Yeah.
will give him mad credit.
Hmm.
It's the only thing that have stopped peak Barcelona and peak Real Madrid. He has three La Liga titles in that
Hmm. In
period,
that stretch, yeah, he does.
and he's got.
And several Champions League finals.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
He's gotten that team to Champions League finals that
And Europa League
no
finals. Yeah.
business
Hmm.
being in.
Hmm.
And he's managed to do it with different collections of guys.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't necessarily count them out. And then I guess these next couple I'd consider I don't think they're really I'd be shocked if they won, but if they were in a semifinal or even a final, I'd still be like, all right, I'm not shocked. I'm not
Right.
weirded out.
Right.
The three German clubs, because Leverkusen is well coached, they're
Uh-huh.
talented. They're not as good as they were last year, but that's to be expected.
Of course.
Bayern, because they have guys that can still hurt you, and there's
Right.
enough guys who have been here before, like Kimmich and
Right.
Goretzka, that can take them forward.
And they're starting to run away with the Bundesliga
Yeah,
too. So they could
but
easily just go, we got this.
vice versa, Dortmund's so screwed in the Bundesliga that the Champions League may be their only path to get to the Champions League. And
Right.
here's the thing, they're a weird team. As bad as they've been domestically, they've played pretty well in Europe.
Hmm.
And this team got to the final last year on merit.
Hmm.
There's some good players there. And then just like a wild card, I'll throw this out there. How about last year's Europa League winners at Atlanta?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
They're well
you're making a
managed.
case for
There's not,
everybody. And Atalanta has been in this European game for the last 5 years, at
yep.
least. They've
They,
been in there year in and year out, either in
they're
Europa
well
League or in
managed.
Champions League.
They're well managed. There's not really a weakness, maybe quality of depth.
Mm.
And other than a certain Egyptian guy, they probably have the second best African player in world football in the moment in Lukman.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
he's a bona
Yeah. Ademola
fide
Lookman is a
problem.
player.
He's
He
a
put in a
bona
hat
fide
trick in that
problem.
in that in that Europa League game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, he's definitely strong. I to be honest, I just can't count out Manchester City. I just can't. And I want to. I won't be surprised if Manchester City doesn't make it out of the playoff, and I won't be surprised if Manchester City semifinals.
See, I think the playoff they'll get through that, but
Hmm.
somewhere in the what we would know as the traditional knockout rounds, they're gonna run into a buzzsaw.
Right.
Like they may be the eighth best team left
Hmm.
left in this tournament,
Right.
But over the course of two legs, I'd take Arsenal, I'd take Barca, I'd take Real Madrid, I'd take
Yeah.
us,
You
I'd take
might take
Inter.
Lille. Lille might be able to get by. And
Yeah,
don't forget,
like even some of the French
Lille
squad,
finished seventh.
I wouldn't. I would hate to be the team that's playing Monaco in the playoff because Monaco is
Don't get me
like,
started on Monaco.
yeah, well, you know all about
We know
that.
all about
You know all about
Monaco.
that. And here's the thing too, like this is a very different Monaco squad than that one. But hey, your old buddy Alexander Golovan's there.
Hmm.
Like, all he needs is a free kick in the area.
Yeah,
Because that's going
yeah, it's
uh
going in.
like so there's so many fascinating storylines here.
Yeah.
And I think the draw for the playoff is tomorrow.
Yes, yeah, it is tomorrow. It's Friday.
So we'll see what we'll see, and I'm sure we'll be revisiting this.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I do. So I am excited for that. I think the group stage was one where I was a bit kind of like, I'm not sure I'm ready for this yet. But now I'm looking at this going, when I saw the draw online today, when I saw that's the way it was kind of set up, I went, this is cool.
yeah,
This is going to be cool. There's going to be some really, really good matches here to watch. And I like the fact that I'm pretty sure they're not dumping these guys who didn't qualify into the Europa League either,
no, once
which
you're
is good.
out, you're
Which
out.
is good because
Which
I can say I thought that was cool at first because it just kind of gave Europa League a little bit more shine because that's where Arsenal happened to be all the time after we had a little dip. But then I kind of felt bad though for teams that qualified for Europa League. Now I got to play against these Champions League losers. That's not really fair. But then you saw quite a few of those Champions League teams go in that Europa League playoff against the second place teams for Europa League groups and then get beat. That was happening a lot. So
I that was this is one of the few when they announced the new format that I was happy with.
yeah,
I swear the old format really only rewarded Sevilla.
yeah,
Sevilla would finish fourth in Spain, get to the Champions League,
yeah,
like just barely finish third in their group,
right.
go to Europa and be like, okay, word,
And then
got
yeah,
that.
we're
Yep,
back home.
yep,
Give us our eighth one.
yep.
Yeah. Or they were in Champions League because they won the Europa League the year
The
before,
year before,
even though
and
they
they were
finished
like eighth
12th.
or ninth
Yeah,
in La
in
Liga.
La
Yeah.
Liga. Yeah.
So really, it only benefited them.
It only
I'm
benefited
convinced
Sevilla.
of that.
I
Because
actually have a Sevilla. I have a
for
Sevilla
years
jersey
that was
too.
the narrative, with people who follow Russian football. It's like a Russian team is going to win the Europa League because of this, and it's like,
Mm,
no, those are the teams that would crash and burn because they'd have to play a Europa League opposition
right.
February in a playoff, and
Right.
like they haven't kicked ball in 2 months because it's
Right.
cold for life. So no, like this is going to end terribly. Uh, so no, I'm actually okay. That's one of the things of the new format I really appreciate.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, Professor. I think we should wrap this up. I planned
Yeah.
we're at an hour and a half, but last time we did this, we said we were going to go like 45 minutes, and we went about an hour and a half. So, so I guess we'll just keep this rolling. But so any parting shots, any final words, anything that we should be looking for this weekend? Oh, also
Uh,
your Europa League. I'm sorry, your Eastern European um a wrap-up show is up now.
haha.
So
So
my YouTube spin was going on and on and on. That's what I figured, and I was right. So it's up.
go to our YouTube page and see. This is not going to be the big like post winter break preview, Eastern Europe preview, but it's a short where I cover some transfers of note and just some general news from the world of Eastern European football. uh my hope is to record the first of my new soccer and history series, which is all about decolonization, before my spring break, so
Okay.
sometime in February that's going to drop. And
Okay.
at some point, either because originally I was like, oh, there's going to be 3 episodes. And now I'm like, this can keep going through the summer
Oh, I
because
love
there's
it.
so much stuff.
Right.
I want to get this guy, Stead, on
I'm ready.
talk
Yeah.
Algeria, but really Algeria and France. I
Hmm.
know that is a topic that's near and dear to your heart,
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
think we can say a lot about that. So check those out, and I guess I'll drop it here now. Uh, Celtic Cam, myself, and some other people on another platform. Well, same platform, different podcast, might be doing something involving Britain, horror films, and stuff. Uh,
Yeah,
so keep your eye out on that because something's
wonderful.
going to be happening soon.
That's
Uh,
great.
anyway, Stead, I think we
Yeah,
call
I'm
it
just gonna say
night.
what. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, we also have our good buddy G. Coach G is gonna be putting together some Coach G type stuff coming forward from New
Yes.
Orleans. So he's got a plan. He did a this is Coach G too. He did a preview, just kind of like running through his show, what he was thinking of doing and everything like that. And so I'm helping him get set up. I'm on a Zoom call with him, and he's there's this, you know, attractive woman walks behind and she sees what's going on. And she starts making funny faces behind the screen. So I just start saying hello. And so afterwards, she texted me and G got the phone number. So it's a very Coach G thing to do. So his podcast hopefully is off to a great start. And as soon as he gets that going, we're going to start publishing that as well. So lots of content coming in 2025. We're going to be, we're not really revamping as we're just going to keep adding and keep adding and keep adding and see if we can finally maybe grow this show a little bit more. So for those of you who are listening, thank you so much. And we really appreciate your ears and your time. I'm going to also begin to post just audio versions of these shows on an additional platform. Hope we can get them on your Apple Podcast, Amazon, and Spotify. Spotify is a definite. It'll definitely be on Spotify. So for Professor Matt, I'm Stead. This has been under the Too Many Guys Soccer Show umbrella. This has been just a report on the Premier League and a little bit of Champions League fun. So I hope everyone has a great day, and we will see you next time. Peace.